There we go. And I'm going to find one more quick little thing. Okay, there we go. Okay. So first, we're going to look at calendar of events. Let's see how our last few days of class are shaping up. We're also going to briefly talk about the character design on-demand elective, which many of you will now be eligible for as you pass the class. Then we're going to have a little demo on color mood, like how to change color quickly, as well as some thoughts about color, like when you're working in concept as well as character design, like how to kind of shift color quickly or how to even paint some stuff like this where you paint what's called like color mood or color script. And then we will take some questions on final projects. We have some in-progress work that we'll check out. We'll do a little bit of draw over on. This one is Zaya's that we'll currently check out. And then, of course, we'll be on our merry way within 5 minutes till the end of the hour. Okay, first let's do the chunky stuff, the business side of things. We have 3 classes left. We have today, the 9th, we have Friday, and then we have next Tuesday as well. In my experience, I've noticed that the last day tends to be a little bit hectic, meaning people might have things at their campus. We genuinely want you to be here on the last day, but just realistically, I've seen people kind of get sort of washed out towards the end. So that's why we want to really state these last things today, actually, as we see people kind of go in and out. So the last day of our class is the 16th, which happens to also be the last day of classes for the semester. So the final day to submit work will be next Tuesday. So that includes your final, that includes anything that you're missing. With people in the room right now, that's not really a concern. So for people who are watching the recording, that's more of a concern. So long story short, next Tuesday, 16th, last day for everything, including work. If you turn it in on the 17th, any missing assignments that you have, we will not take any of those. Part of that's because we have progress reports that we're writing. And part of it's because I have extremely strong boundaries. So you got to turn everything in by the 16th. Otherwise, we will not take it in for your grade. For people watching the recording, our final reminder, if you're missing more than 4 assignments or you have more than 6 unexcused absences, you're at high risk to not pass the class. One of the reasons you've heard that over and over again is because as we speak, there's people in this class that will probably not pass the class, and I refuse to let them do that without warning. So you've had plenty of warning. If you don't have all your assignments turned in, or if you're missing a lot, I should say, if you have a lot of unexcused absences, you're in some trouble. Now, in addition, a lot of people in the room right now are doing very, very well. For some reason, you are missing assignments or you have absences. Obviously, those things would impact your grade as well. So most people are passing the class are doing great. People might also be concerned about getting some nice numbers at the end. So if you are concerned at all about your final grade that's impacted by things like missing assignments, not responding when you're called on, completing homework incorrectly, something like you've been completing stuff not fully to the assignment on the prompt, and then even not having your camera turned on. So unless you've spoken to me that you just don't have camera on, blah, blah, blah. If you'd like to improve your standing in class with your last week, you can reach out to me and request a work plan. So that's you saying on Teams, hey, I have some issues. I'm missing work. I've been absent. Maybe I've been even a little bit absent in class. What can I do to improve my grade? Just reach out to me on Teams. I'll give you a couple of quick things you can do, and you'll be all square. So for anyone watching the recording, I can't stress that enough that communication is all you need to do. It's typically one of the best things you can do for your teachers and anyone in your life. Don't be silent, communicate. So I'm going to put this into our Teams chat on Teams itself. There we go. And then I will also give it to you in the Zoom chat today, just so you have a copy of it. And then clearly, last thing, of course, your final project does have a big impact on your grade. So if you don't turn in your final project on time or at all, that will definitely impact your grade. So get that final project turned in, get your missing stuff turned in, take some responsibility about yourself and how you perform, request some work plan if you need additional help with your grade, and I'll help you out. Okay, now, that said, in this room, most people are doing fantastic, which means you will now be eligible for our character design on-demand elective. You are eligible once you pass the class. You've taken 2 terms of digital art, which this is what we have technically done with this semester. So let me show you quickly the character design on-demand elective, and I'll explain a little bit about it. Here we go. So if you're not familiar, an on-demand elective would be an elective that you are actually running yourself, or is kind of self-guided. Now there are videos like within the lesson, so you can watch a little bit of lesson being taught by myself. And then you do get to meet with me actually whenever you want, but otherwise there's like scheduled meetings for you to check in. As we speak, we have people in the room that have taken on-demand electives or are currently in one, so a lot of the model makes sense. In case you haven't taken one, for digital art, you are eligible now for the character design on-demand elective. So what this would be is this would be a class that you can sign up for once you're done with digital art. So meaning like literally May 17th if you wanted to. It is a open schedule. So you actually have as long as you'd like to complete the class. You could take a year to complete the class if you want. If you don't want to do that and you want some nudging, of course, I'm happy to nudge you and kind of give you some encouragement to move along. But it's actually something that runs in the background. And especially for summer, if you're interested in doing some summer stuff, you could work on the on-demand elective. Now, the format feels similar in terms of like digital art, stuff about character, which you've noticed has been very heavy towards the end because that's a really good department we like to explore. But there are a couple of different types of cards or different kinds of assessment that are embedded within this course. So as an example, when you do a course like this, character design is broken down into, first part is a lot of like lessons or kind of like ideas of character design. The second part breaks up more into prompts and like actual character designs themselves. So as an example, we have lessons on shape language, silhouette, anatomy, and color theory. And then we get into some really direct character design prompts, including one called future fashion, one that I like a lot called teen scream, which is redesigning like a classic horror movie character. And inside of all these, you have different types of cards compared to what we've done. But they follow a similar model, which would be you typically have a card where you collect reference. So in the case of the anatomy card or the anatomy unit, you would actually collect reference for a particular subject. You would then find a piece of artwork and give some narrative writing about it. So you kind of write or address it a little bit narratively. We have a sketchbook session where you would where you would learn how to kind of investigate your topic maybe before you do it formally to kind of like sketch, find pictures, sort of explore it. And then finally, you have your assignment, which this is where you'll have a video that you can watch. Many of the videos are instructional, some of them are more explanation, especially when it comes to the character design. And then you'd have your unit. So let's go back over here. So examples of courses, you'd see things that look like our typical handouts, which are really cool, like we've had in digital art. We do have some new topics that we never got to explore really in depth, like color theory, which is great, including stuff that's very industry level, as I'd call it. So we have things that are typical, like normal color theory, all the way to things like what we call the 70-30 rule. These might be things we've mentioned in class, but of course now we're being told formally. And then our character designs get pretty involved. So even in retrospect, or I should say, excuse me, in comparison to the one we're doing right now, these character designs start to get really stacked in terms of what's being asked of you. So things like make a character, make a head, make a call out, make an action, things like that. So if you're interested, you want to continue the journey, again, everyone in the room is, as far as I can tell, going to be eligible. You're doing great. Definitely reach out to me, and I'll put this into our Teams chat as well. So just as a reminder, I'll put it in there and I'll say, hey, we have the character design on-demand elective. If you're interested in signing up, just let me know. And again, this is open, so take as much or as little time as you want to actually sign up for it. Okay, so final calendar, character design. Let's do a little bit of demo, a little bit of drawing, painting today. We'd also like to maybe even have some time we can ask some questions, like some final questions. We will be critiquing stuff, as I mentioned, starting on Friday, but we expect that people will take till Tuesday to finish. So that's why we'll actually have 2 days of critique. We'll critique on Friday, probably do a little bit of drawing and painting, and then we'll finish everything up on Tuesday. Today's little demo, before we get to talking about final projects, is I wanted to talk a little bit about what we call like color mood or even like color scripting. And both these things involve like how to change color quickly, like how to kind of shift color quickly in your program, and even some typical colors that you're thinking about, like sunlight, moonlight, daytime, like atmosphere, things like that. And then even here on the bottom, I have a little bit of nice info, this little infographic I like on color scripting. And so we'll talk about all those things. So first, let me give you just this little slide if you want to draw or paint on it as well. And I'll be doing some drawing and painting, so you can work on your program, or you can just draw on this slide as well. So here you go. And then let me actually grab quickly a color script. So we have talked about color briefly, like meaning in an intro way. And we also, what movie is this? I'm trying to figure it out. Here, I'm just gonna grab something in there. We've talked about color, and then we've also talked a little bit about the layer modes and stuff to change color. So we've talked about like layer modes and how to affect color, things like that. And one thing that is very popular in entertainment design would be the idea of what's called color scripts. So color scripts, this is, as far as I can tell, color scripting potentially from the film. Yeah, like these are all shots that are in the film. So this is from Coco, so the Pixar film Coco. And the idea of color scripts is you sort of see color change across a film from maybe warm, bright, and open to more, blue and mysterious, more conflict, back to being kind of bright and open again, let's say. And that's literally done through color, right? It's done through like orange, done through blue. Also a film potentially just having like a really focused type of color, like blues and oranges are like the main colors of this film, something like that. If you look up color scripting, here we go. Here's one from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. You'll also see really cool stuff like this, where the entire film here on the top, if you see these bars, this is like the entire film broken down, kind of like from start to finish, and showing how color changes. And again, you see, brighter colors. The film starts bright, maybe the film gets dark because there's conflict, and then it's bright again. So it's not obvious, of course, color design is very important in animation, film, characters, the costumes you draw, etc. So one of the things we want to talk about or show is that you will also see stuff like this, where people take a concept, like an illustration or a character, and they change the color. So they use like the same image and they kind of affect or change the color to show different options. And so we want to show some techniques for that, like some techniques for how to quickly change color. And so as an example, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to pull actually this, because this is kind of the template right here. So I'm going to pull the template, and then I'll also just draw a quick head. And so if you'd like to work along with me, this is one of the first things we'll do, is we'll draw just a quick little head that we can kind of mess around with. So I'll put a very standard kind of head like there on the side, just to draw from. And so the idea is, how do we take something as a template, kind of like our one character, our one drawing, and give ourselves, as well as our art director, our audience, multiple colors, like multiple iterations. We'll get a quick head on here. I would highly recommend for color design that you look up color script, but that's a word that you get pretty comfortable with, because you will find really fascinating stuff like I showed you from film, of like different types of color. And it's one of the best ways to learn about color is through film. So you could learn through live action film, because of course live action film is just as focused on color, but animation would probably be your best bet for finding lots and lots of variety of color. I'll make a very quick little head. We can change the color on. Just out of curiosity, in the chat, you can type in the chat, you can say it out loud. Does anyone have a film like a film or a movie or a show where they really like the color, like where color is something that really sticks out in your mind or that you focus on a lot. Oh man, very good. Yeah, these are all great. Oh, very good. Persona. Yeah, I have not played that game since I was in high school, a long time ago. Yeah, Blade Runner 2049, excellent film for stuff like that. In fact, I could try to find that. LJ says Arcane, very good. And then yeah, Persona 5, the game, very good. In fact, we'll put just a couple of those up. Persona 5 actually, when you look up just right away, look up this artwork has very distinct kind of like graphic contrast. Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I'm super I haven't played Breath of the Wild and I'm already super excited for that new Zelda game. I'm dying to just buy a Switch just to play those games. They're so good. Or look so good, I should say. I haven't played them yet. Yeah, Arcane, beautiful artwork. So here's Arcane. I'm putting some of these down here. That was LJ's. I feel like Blade Runner, of course, whether you like the film or you like the color, potentially you might like Dune, right? Dune has beautiful color design. The new trailer just came out for that film. Um, I have, let's see, gosh, give me 1 second. There we go. Blade Runner 2049. Just want to put this on screen real fast. I have this site that I'm subscribed to. I think you can look at it for free. You just don't have all the access. It's called Shot Deck. Beautiful website. So here's stuff from Blade Runner 2049. In fact, here's like a really great still. You click on stills from these films on this website. So it's called Shot Deck. I would check it out, even though you have to pay for it. There's definitely some free stuff on there. I haven't had the free one in a long time, but I can guarantee it still would be just as cool. But when you click on, you put in a film, whatever film you want, and you click on one of the stills and you see these types of breakdowns where you see kind of like we're talking about color script or color mood. You even have all the camera information if you're into stuff like that. You even have this shot, which is nice. So for instance, this should be a close-up. Yeah, it says frame size close-up. So if you like film, you'll kind of learn about film by clicking on the different shots. So for instance, this one's a wide shot because we see the full figure. There's the color script as well. We're going to put a few of these on our screen. So yeah, film, animation, all these kinds of things, great place to study. Zaya says Midsummer has really good usage of colors. I wag my finger. You guys should not be watching those films. Those are very intense movies. You're still very small, little young developing people, and your mind shouldn't be rotted out by that movie. It is a really interesting movie. Of course, I've seen it. But yes, it does have some interesting color. Speaking of, I'm probably pushing myself here, but I think Midsummer might be on. Yeah, so there's Midsummer on Shot Deck as well. That was very dangerous of me to put this on here without first framing it. But anyway, here's some really nice stuff. Yeah, beautiful. Here's a great example. Especially this is a very cool shot towards the end of the film. But some really good stuff with color as well. Nolan says Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, Pushing Daisies. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm going to search a couple of these real quick. I know I'm on the other screen. Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, very good one. I don't know if that's on Shot Deck. Oh, it is. Awesome. Beautiful. It is on Shot Deck. Yeah, Guardians, great. All those Marvel movies now. Those movies, I would almost say are this bridge between like their live action, but they use color in a really animated way. Like it's very saturated, very direct kind of use of color. Here's a great example of a shot from the end of the film, if I remember correctly. Let me see. I'm gonna just try this real fast. Here, I'll cut to Photoshop while I'm searching. Yeah, it's gonna look real fast, like a Guardians of the Galaxy. I wonder if they have a color script for that. It'd be very cool. Pushing Daisies. I'm not familiar with that. I'm gonna look that up too. Pushing Daisies. I thought that was an old show. Yeah, I was like, that's an old show. By the way, funny connection because I think this is Lee Pace, who also happens to be the antagonist in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's how you connect things, right? 1 minute he's in Pushing Daisies, the next minute he's the villain in Guardians, which I forget his name in Guardians. Ronan or something, right? So it says Matrix, classic, of course, very classic. Here's Pushing Daisies, by the way, very saturated kind of character, or excuse me, so sorry, very saturated color, really saturated stuff. Very interesting. These are great examples. I like also the range, since I'm definitely more animation centric. I like seeing this Pushing Daisy stuff. Yeah, and then let's grab one more. And these are all cool because actually what we can do, I love this exercise because we can take our little drawing and we can push colors towards these ideas, these frames that we have. So last one is Matrix, super classic. Just because I'm getting old and it allows me to say things like this, you have no idea um, how fascinating Matrix was to everyone when it came out. Like it probably has an impact on you guys when you're seeing a movie like that for the first time. It might be, of course, just as cool as when it came out, but it really was a groundbreaking movie when it came out. I remember seeing Matrix 1999, I think. So I would have been like 13, 12, probably I was 12. And it just blew everyone away. It's like the wildest movie we had all ever seen in our lives. Of course, very popular. And also for a while, this is the last grandpa thing I'll say is I remember for a while, this is like our first DVD. It's like one of the first like big DVDs that came out was Matrix. All right, I'm done being old. No, there was on it too. Stranger Things. Yeah, Stranger Things is important because it's so intentionally trying to be 80s. Like it kind of, especially as it got further along, like the first season to me was I didn't see the latest season, but the first season, second season, even to me, were not, from what I saw, as direct as even these later seasons that like really got cinematic. Like they got extremely cinematic and a lot of use of color. Um, but yeah, these are all great examples. Stranger Things is a great one too. I almost even made in my planning, I almost made a final kind of centered around Stranger Things. So I thought like I'm going to finish this little sketch and I'll do my color, but I'm going to ask you another question in the chat. I'm actually curious about this. When I was making the final, I like the final, the detective idea is cool. And then I was trying to think of like a final, even for like the character design class. I really like stuff where you sort of create like a new character, like oh you like insert a new character. So for instance, imagine like oh create a new character that would fit into like the Stranger Things universe, like one of the kids, like a creature, something like that. And it actually brought up this idea I should have just asked you all, where I was like, I don't really know like what shows are important right now to people like in your age group. Because on the pop culture side, you see like Stranger Things, stuff like that. But I don't actually know like what I just talked about Matrix, how important that was to me. Like, I don't know like what those shows or films are for you all. Like these really iconic shows where you'd be like, oh yeah, like that's a show that like all of us in our age watched or we all love. So feel free to type some of that in the chat if you want. We can also ask that more formally later. But of course, that's me being out of touch where I was like, I don't really know like what what are these like big shows to you all? Like Matrix was to like our age group, things like that. Very interesting. And of course, it's great that y'all are watching. I see this Pushing Daisies reference. It's very cool that y'all still watch older stuff as well. A lot of good shows, good films back in the day. Okay, so here's our general head. And I'll put just a little bit of color on it, and then we'll start to tweak it. And again, actually, I love this because this to me is more fun in a way because now what I envision is let's take a drawing, like a sketch, and lean it towards like what's the Matrix version of it, what's the Arcane, what's the Pushing Daisies. I love that. That's a great riff of this idea. Okay, so here's our general head. And let's give it a color flat. Now, let's start off with some good ideas, which would be, if you're going to do something like this, you're gonna do an exercise like this. One of the best things you can do is you can definitely be organized in your layers. So as an example, I will give my person here a little shirt so we can change the color. We would want to make some separate flats or layers for each of these colors, but more importantly, just make like a nice flat underneath the whole drawing. So every time I say flat, we just mean make a nice flat shape for this whole sketch. So I'm using the lasso tool and Put a flat under there. There you go. And then the first thing when you're messing with color is you would give yourself a local color. So meaning if your character is a certain skin tone, your character has a certain colored shirt, blue or something, you would actually give them those local colors. So I'm giving my character kind of this blue shirt. And just some general tone. Blue shirt. General tone. And general eye color. Kind of looks like Jeff Bezos. I think I'm gonna give him some hair just because it's creeping me out. I'm gonna give him a quick. He needs like a quick. This is like Jeff Bezos if he wasn't destroyed by the commercial, the capitalist mentality of Amazon. So we'll give this character a quick little cropped hair. I hate when that happens. I hate when you're just randomly drawing something and then you make it like creepy. Jeff, yeah, there you go. Jeff Bezos, pre-chemical spill. Jeff Bezos back when he was just selling books. God, now talk about being old. I don't know why I'm having such a grandpa moment, but it's like, I remember a time when Amazon was literally just books. That's all you'd go on there for, is just to buy a book. The coolest thing in the world. Then he turned into a super villain. But the dude just used to sell books. It wasn't a big deal. It was actually pretty chill. It's an awesome place to buy books. Okay. Let's get this dark pre-chemical spill. Let's get this dark Jeff Bezos. Slightly more normal. Okay. Okay, now with our local color, so I mean like with our local kind of concept, very last little thing, of course, is I'll put just some general color back here, kind of like a gray, green. There we go. Let's first talk about, even as review, like some of the layer modes that really help us out with these ideas. So one of the most beneficial layer modes, in my opinion, for shifting color would be, okay, thank you, Genesis, would be soft light and overlay. And I'm going to put these things on the top, of course, because I want this to be a little reference that we'll put on the Teams chat later. So first thing would be some of the best work that you can do, in my opinion, is with soft light and overlay. Now, one of the interesting things, I'm going to put one more piece of color on here, which is some shadow. One of the interesting things I've talked about before about color, and I want to reiterate, is that we had said before, so sorry, I'm just trying to do this very quick. So I'm giving him a little bit of shadow, very general kind of shadow. Here's like, this is what we call kind of like very neutral kind of shadows. I mean, like this is largely like overhead, nothing too dramatic. A little bit on the sides. Okay, so we had said before in class that the hierarchy of art, which would be a very important thing to always keep in mind, is shape, value, and color. So the idea would be that if your shape, value are correct, if the character's face and the way light hits the face is correct, you can make a character any color you want. So even though we have talked about the skin tone of everyone in the world is a parent version of orange, meaning like everyone's orange, it's why we can do things like this in animation and film. We can take something like this screen and we can slide this, and we could have had a scene like this, right? Where it's green. We could have had a scene like this where it's purple. He's in like a nightclub. We could have even like deep colors like this, like night. And the whole point, yeah, Jess, everyone is orange. Very good. That's one of those, as I said before, tombstone quotes. Everyone's orange. So the idea is that the shot of Harrison Ford, for instance, is actually correct, or like could be any type of part in a film. We saw this with Nolan's great example of Guardians, right? So here's Guardians, they're all purple. So as long as you get shape and value correct, you can actually make color anything you want. So that's why we could take something like this general kind of idea, and with color, especially with like overlay, we could do things like, oops, so sorry, hard way. So we could do things like a night version, like night lighting. We could do things like sun with like orange or yellow. These are very fast kind of ideas, meaning like fast, even we sometimes call it like dirty, meaning like just get it done, get it rough, get it muddy. But it's why we could do things like night, sun, and then even sort of like really high contrast. So we have, let's say like really high sunlight, for instance, could look something like this. High sunlight from one side, from the right. So you could have a version with high sunlight. You could have a version with soft moonlight. So there's your blue. Here's kind of like some soft light. These are things, of course, you refine. That's why I'm saying it's muddy, dirty, and the dirt and the mud. You kind of start off with these ideas and then paint accordingly, like paint and render it. So here's a little bit of kind of soft moonlight, hard sunlight. So those start with overlay and soft light. And so the idea would be that when you want to change color quickly, we're going to move this stuff here. We'll start with our actual steps. The first thing would be get your shapes, values, and local color set up. So that means, again, make your make your character, pick their colors, pick their shirt, their skin tone, and get all of that really set up. And what I mean by really set up is make that your template. Like it's correct, you like it, it's good, it's on a separate layer even. And then from there, you can use the following. Use multiply, overlay, soft light. And then one of my favorites that's not on every program, but I do use it a lot, is what's called hard light. To lay down big color and temperature moves. So as an example, let's say this template, I was showing off like, a little bit of moon, a little bit of like hard sun. Now let's have some fun. Let's say I wanted to do, I like this a lot, this Matrix shot right here, which Matrix is really exciting as a film. But one thing that's funny is a lot of the film, especially in the beginning, are those odd, like sickly green shots of Neo, what Neo, right? His name? I'm getting old. Neo, like, not in the Matrix yet, but just kind of like this depression, like this depressive state, which the color is super important in those parts, is really green, right? So for instance, if I wanted to make kind of a matrix kind of shot or temperature, I would take my artwork here and I'd probably, for me personally, I like to lean on overlay a lot. And I'd grab kind of this sickly yellow green. To first like shift everything. So here's, and I am having some nice artwork here being done, but I can tell I'm also getting pretty crowded. So I'm gonna kind of shove all this over so I can make some room for everything. Give me just 1 second. There we go. And okay. Yeah, it's getting a little crowded in here. Okay, there we go. I want to be able to show some steps. So let's say, for instance, first here is the template. And if I want to do like that matrix kind of look. So I have my template. I do overlay. I highly recommend when you're shifting color, you're doing that daylight, that moon, even this like matrix idea. I highly recommend that you use overlay as your first step and you just do like a literal paint bucket of overlay on top of everything. Because right away that shifts a lot of your temperatures. So as an example, here's overlay and the exact green that I'm using. Now, one thing I like too about this matrix shot to wrap up this color shifting would be we have that computer screen idea. So he's kind of like in an office, his computer's not on, but that's an example of that like depressive state. He's like in his office or his cubicle. He's like looking at the computer and it's just kind of like that sad quality of like seeing a screen, like screen light. So then I could come in here with hard light. So I make a hard light layer. In many of your programs, I think it'd be overlay and soft light. You might have a hard light as an option. And if you do, again, I would recommend it. It's a really very interesting kind of behavior. It's like really like raw kind of color. Like the color comes out very strong. So here's some hard light. And what it does, in my opinion, is it's kind of like overlay and multiply combined. It's like if you use bright colors with hard light, it can be very vibrant, like saturated. And if you use dark colors with it, it makes things really deep. So that's why it kind of gets, in my opinion, it gets like both things done at once. It's like it gets your multiply kind of shadows and then also gets your brights if you need them. So here's hard light, and I'm going to do a reverse kind of light because he's looking at a screen. Zai says hard light's so cool is rim white. Yeah, it's if you have it on your program, I like it a lot. It's like one of my favorite layers. And I discovered that when I was doing a lot more Blizzard kind of stuff, like kind of like Hearthstone looking stuff. And I just needed more magic spells and like looks like that. And I needed a wear mode that really gave me those kinds of vibes. And that's where I got hard light. It really helped out with that. So here's that kind of a we call it reverse lighting. And then last thing is I'll make kind of a aqua for the screen. And then his eye is right because it's film. We could totally have a little bit of rim light. So rim light is often how you cut a figure out of shadow and kind of separate them. It also does turn form, like it helps to kind of turn a figure or a body a little bit. And I'll show a quick film example of that. There's a little bit more of that green. So this was all just hard light. And I would imagine, I actually would hope truly that for a lot of you, layer modes are comfortable or you're starting to feel more comfortable. But that's another part of what we're trying to show is that when you want to quickly affect something, so let's turn it all off again. So there's back to I really enjoy this character name, pre-chemical spill Jeff, pre-chemical bit Jeff. And so when we want to go back to normal, we just shut it off. We turn it on, we shut it off. And what I was getting is that I like that layer modes feel comfortable. I hope you're starting to feel more comfortable layer modes, but this is where they are powerful. Because if I was told, hey, I want you to make like this matrix style idea, I'll do a quick one as the arcane style, like the lighting in the arcane frame. We could slap it on there, turn it off, and do another one. And that's where a lot of that color script and color mood comes in, is that you must use those layer modes to your advantage. On top of course, having this idea too, where you kind of start with like your strong drawing or strong painting, so that you have something that's easy to slap on top like this to manipulate. Um, so I'll do one more very quick one, um, because I want to get to our last section of asking, or excuse me, answering questions about the final. So here's the arcane. So very blue, moody. I love this light on the corner, so I'll do a little bit of that. So same thing. First thing I do is I'd probably get an overlay layer, and I'd put kind of this aqua over everything. So notice how it takes all my colors, like the browns, the skin tone, and even the shirt, and it hits them with that blue. Now, this one does have a little bit of a deeper blue, so I'll get the hard light. And I will brush on a little bit of darker blue. So I brush some dark. Here's some of that source of light and atmosphere. Here's some of the shadow. Oop, there we go. Some of the shadow in the face. So this frame up here, by the way, love this type of lighting. There's lighting coming to the front of the character, sometime other one up here. But a lot of the lighting is happening behind the head, which is typically one of my favorite, for me personally, one of my favorites, where you get kind of this nice shadow over the front of the face. And then the side is where you see a little bit of light. So I'll make it a little bit deeper over here. So this is again all hard light. Overlay on a lot of programs, Procreate. Maybe if someone by some chance has Procreate open, they could confirm. I don't know if Procreate has hard light. I know it has soft light and overlay, but I don't know if it has a hard light mode. But to its credit, Procreate has many more useful things, including like the dodge, and Procreate is a lot better than in Photoshop. Awesome. Rain says Procreate has hard light. Cool. Yeah, actually, one of my admissions is I don't paint a lot in Procreate. I draw a lot in Procreate, but I do almost all my painting in Photoshop. So I still haven't looked at a lot of like my painting ability in Procreate. But I'm definitely a big Procreate fan. In fact, even with our classes, somewhere down the line, I'd like to teach like a Procreate centric one. I just want to get better at myself. I think it's a great program. It's a very strong, powerful program. Okay, so here's a little bit of that shadow. And then let's do, in this case, for this arcane one, some of the special effects. So I'm going to do a little bit of dodge. There we go. So I like this kind of pink rim light. Another thing that's important to see with this, kind of walking through, putting some lighting onto one of your subjects is you still paint, like you still draw, you still paint, you still do the heavy lifting. But what's so cool is that those layer modes help you to do it very quickly. On top of this idea that you can just shut it on and off so easily, and you can bang it out really fast. So meaning I'm not that stressed out. Like I'm not stressed about adding this color or like changing it from the matrix one. It's like we very quickly get these things going, which is fantastic in my opinion. It's so easy to make very quick little color studies just using the power of these layer modes, and also trusting your drawing. I mean, like trusting that you have this chill drawing that has a lot of information already on there, color, shape, some value, and then it gives you the freedom to do this, to really get in here and very quickly and cinematically affect the light. So here's a little arcane frame. There's another one. Again, both these started with overlay, a lot of hard light. But overlay, or excuse me, hard light to me is actually a newer concept for shifting colors so dramatically. I actually historically for years and years just used overlay. That's like always the one I've used. So if you have overlay, because I know even I'm glad that Procreate has it, but I also know that some other programs will not have it, like some of the other besides Quip and Photoshop. Definitely can get by with overlay as a layer, especially to establish that first idea. Okay, now as I mentioned, if you like the stuff that you're seeing to like change color and even study it, and everyone had wonderful suggestions about like shows and things like that to check out for color, I highly recommend terms, and I'll write them here really large for our final screen. You should look up terms like, oops, so sorry, trying to find my pen. There we go. So look up color script. Color mood is not bad. Color script is a little bit better. And then you could look up lighting design in film. I'm always careful to not think or assume something is obvious. So I mean, like if I was like thinking about, like I just showed you, where would I study color? I'd say, yeah, I'd go study film. That's why I'm subscribed to that site, Shot Deck, because I look at color and I like studying color on there. But I don't want to assume that. I don't want to assume that that's automatic. If you've never thought about like where do you study color, 1000% you must study it from film. Go study film. Go look at film stills, especially because like we showed with this. I'm already losing because I have so many layers on here. With the Blade Runner one where it's an orange, or even this Guardians one, I'll zoom in. We can see how color can completely wash over the figure, and the figure still makes sense. It's still presentable. Just as just give me an excuse to watch more TV. Yeah, exactly. Just wait, if you're a professional artist, just to throw this out there, if you make art for a living, you literally can write off all this stuff on your taxes. That's not important to you right now. But when you go see a film, when you buy a book, when I sign for Shot Deck, I write all that stuff off because it's part of your job. So yes, you do get paid money sometimes to watch TV. Additionally, I'll have this on the handout. This is pretty cool. Like this is this is animation centric, but these things do make a lot of sense, especially even like we just saw in here, mystery for like this shot from Guardians. It's very magical, right? So these would be cool things to look up down the line when you're looking at color mood as well. Okay, so let me put this in the chat, and then of course I'll put it in our team's chat. And here we go. Before I cut over to some last question on final project stuff, any questions about what we just talked about? Like any questions, anything you have a challenge with your aware mode or with your program? I won't get too much into like what are these exact like scenarios for color, because of course the stuff actually just it was quite cinematic. It's not very necessarily very natural. Stuff over here is more natural, but if it's not obvious, a lot of times when you want to practice this, just practice literally like day and night. In fact, a good way to look at it would be practice day and night. So during the day, during the night, and then practice strong versions of that. So for instance, this is what we'd call overcast. So this is kind of like chill overcast. This looks kind of like sunset in a way. Oh, in fact, I'm actually realizing this is a really nice chronology. It kind of looks like it's the whole day, right? So it's kind of like the start of the day, warming up, the sun's out, the sun's setting, the nighttime, and then this could be even like sunrise. But yeah, think of that day and night, and then study the softened version of that: overcast and sun, soft moonlight, and like really strong moonlight. Okay, let me go ahead and squash all this. There's that color script. I'll put this in the chat too, just so you can have a look at it. Here we go. Okay. So to wrap up, we have just a couple of minutes. I'm actually going to stay on and talk about this. So Zai, if you have a couple minutes too, I'll be on for another like 5 minutes or so. I was going to answer some quick questions on Zai's final project, which everyone, of course, is encouraged to do. So if you're working on your final project and you'd like some help with it, message me on Teams. If you need something really dramatic, of course, you could even book a quick Zoom with me, and I'll get on Zoom and talk to you about it. Let me just grab a quick pen. Here we go. Okay, so our classes, in fact, I'm going to do this quickly because I see it's 11:54 or 54 an hour. So I'm going to formally end class. I mean, I'm going to say so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen. But I'll stay on for another about 5 minutes because I want to critique Zaya's piece in progress. So if you'd like to stay and watch that, you can. Otherwise, we will do our formal salute, farewell. So Friday, we will critique projects that have been turned in. If we only have a couple, we'll do something similar like I just did, where we'll do another like quick little lesson or demo. And then of course, next Tuesday is when your final is truly due. So make sure you have it turned in by then, so we actually are able to critique it for that last one. So formal goodbye. I'll see you on Friday. Take care. Have a great day. Otherwise, a goodbye. Otherwise, we'll come back over here real quick and we'll do some last little critique. Bye, Genesis. Okay, cool. So everyone jumped out. Okay, so real quick, have you worked any more on this? Like are you coloring it yet, or is it still in this drawing part? Still in drawing?
Yeah. I mean, I already have an idea of colors, but I haven't started it yet.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think there's just a couple of drawing things that we could fix. By the way, I didn't actually see it first, but I really like this big gesture. I just saw that. So the first positive would be I see everything going on. Like I see the fox, I see all the cool curios, like all the cool tools and stuff. I think that all looks great. I really like this seems like a question mark, right? Like subtle, not subtle. It's kind of like almost looks like the Riddler from like Batman kind of question mark. So I think that's really cool. I like that. And of course, like you're way ahead in terms of like you got your figure, you got a head, you got your call out going. I'm going to give you, I think, just a couple of small drawing notes, and I think you're going to be good. First one would be on the whole body figure. I do think we could push some of the silhouette stuff because it's pretty crammed right now. Like if I did this as an example. Oops. I just want more popping out of this one in particular, the full figure, which is I mainly want to see. So sorry, the profile of the head, because it's such an important one, being a fox. It's like I want to see it a little bit more. I think the smoke is really cool, but you might like break it up a little bit more so that it does read more like smoke. I actually want all that question mark stuff. I think that's awesome, but it's so connected right now from start to finish. I would just like break it up. And then two small parts that we'll try to force into here is I'd love to try to get like some kind of negative in here so you could see the boot, or just like have some breakup down there. And then I don't mind the hand going into the coat like around here, but maybe something to make this hand feel a little bit more like a hand. Since right now, like in silhouette, it's just like a bump. So this first one's pretty easy. Like you, I like that you cheated the collar so far because it looks cool. Like it's like a cool look. But I do think it kind of hurts. Actually, it hurts multiple things if you think about it. It hurts the fox's face, and then let's do this right. Let's see that pipe in silhouette. So if we clean the collar off, then we get that sweet fox face. We get that cool pipe. I would not have this jacket connected to the pipe. I let the pipe be freestanding. So I would do that button idea kind of like that. So yeah, keep all this stuff preserved right here. That's very, very important stuff. Now I of all people like a cool popped collar. So I would just do something like this, like just pop a little piece of the collar like on this side, maybe, if that. Let me see real quick. Yeah, probably something just like that. I'm kind of running over all of your previous drawing, but this would be the goal, is try to make a shape that looks like this. You see that nice fox face. You could actually pop this little eye patch. You can kind of cheat it a little bit. So like from the side, we really see it. I'll put in here. I'm going to number this too. I give you a lot of notes, but I'll try to number them real quick. Yeah, number 1 is like cheat that. Number 2 is fix this. Yeah, so this is cool, this question mark thing. What I would do is I would definitely find some moments to kind of like split or make it like really wispy. So it's like getting really thinned out. You could even move this question mark idea a little bit farther out. And then I like it a lot. Like it's a cool symbol. It's a little bit, for someone like me, it's a little bit too straight on. So I would even do something like this where you kind of like tilt it, maybe even stretch it out a little, make it a little more subtle. It's like really fun, and then like we want people to discover it. We don't want it to be like too obvious. It's like a really, really awesome like afterthought, kind of like how I said, I'm like, oh, it's like a question mark. That's cool. It's turning into it. You kind of want it to feel like that versus being like too obvious. And when you color, by the way, you could mess with that too. Like you could always color it where it's a little bit emphasized, and that would kind of help um, for it to be there, and like you're showing it off. I was breaking it up. I don't like that. So here's a little like, yeah, something kind of like that, where we want it to split up a little bit. The smoke is really powerful coming out of the pipe, and then we want it to dissipate. Even for the page, by the way, just compositionally, I like it not being so matched up like this. I think it'll look better like what I was doing, where it's kind of like breaking away. So that way it's not like this line across from everything. Okay, now the hand again, really beautiful hand, and you're lucky. You can actually take this hand and pop it farther out. So like I would pop it out more like here, so we could see the knuckle, the anatomy of it, and you even get this little bonus right here. You should be able to pop a negative in there. So it's just holding a little bit more of the tip of the jacket. And that way you get a nice negative in there. Um, if you want, you're working in a style right now that I like, where you're kind of intentionally really busy, like you're kind of like cramming a lot of information. And so I would take that a step further with the jacket, and I would even put some stress like cuts into the jacket. The king of this, there's a lot of guys and gals that are cool at it, but the king of it is this guy, Joe Mad. Are you familiar with him? Joe Madera? Joe Mad?
Yeah,
Okay,
I've heard of him.
okay, yeah. I look at him a lot for like the ripping stuff, which let me try to find one real quick. Um, let's see. I know there's one. Oh, here we go. Yeah, like this isn't bad. So yeah, like the way he's kind of like tearing up the cape there. You could do that with the jacket. That could look really cool.
Yeah, he's very like angular with his
Yes.
kind of ribs.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like a good word too. Like angular is good, and they're like violent, right? It's like they have like an energy and a violence to them. So what we would say, of course, to each other as artists is it's one thing to do this, it's one thing to kind of like Swiss cheese it and go like, wow, it's got holes. And Joe Mad's a guy that's like making these literal sharp, almost like knives kind of shapes. And that's cool because it directs the eye and then also just has more of that feeling, more of that energy. Um okay, and then the last thing would be the negative space for the shoe. Um which you're also lucky because this shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to just do this. I would just shift this leg a little bit farther back, the back foot, push it a little bit farther. And then now here's another one too, is I like this, like you're bending this like really violently, and you could still bring this leg a little bit farther as a result. Like this is almost a little too far back. So, and what we love is, again, this is what we call like win-win. Like everyone wins. We get the negative space, you're improving the leg, so they need more space in general. So we'd have something kind of like that. You can make this one, I think I did this on accident, so let me fix it. You can make this one kind of like a little bit, kind of like profile, because like that's where he's putting a lot of the weight is like on that one. So you can turn it a little bit profile, make it like nice and strong. It's like a really strong contact with the ground. And then this is the one where the toe could be up a little bit. So it's almost like that's the one that's being walked on, right? It's like it's kind of turned up a little bit, which is kind of what you did here. You have this one peeking up, which you can keep it like that. I just barely straightened it out just so it feels a little bit more powerful, a little bit more weight. Um, okay, so that's 6, we'll call it. Okay, now other than that, I think this drawing on the left has a lot of good stuff going on. I wouldn't mess with it too much. I think this is a little bit small, which I like small heads and hands because it makes the figure look cooler, but I could see that getting a little bit bigger. Even by some miracle, if you wanted to pop a finger off just for fun, like pop a finger or hand out a little bit like that. So you kind of see this like reaching, like kind of grabbing or gesturing towards something. But it looked a little bit small. Same with this. This is one of the only things over here that I really wanted to jump on is this is a little bit tiny. Um, and especially with like the eye would be kind of like here. And this is things are a little bit like disjointed on this one. So what I would recommend is I like all this stuff on the top, like the height of everything up there looks good. I would just come in here and I would center, oops, let me make this real quick. I would center this a little bit more. I would drop this down. Maybe get like a little bit angrier. So like drop the jaw a little bit more. There's like a little more attitude is the way I'd put it. The first one was him kind of like subtly saying something, but maybe give him just like a little bit more attitude. So kind of dropping that a little bit more. I also think this is kind of neutral, and he could look more, I think he could look kind of more pissed off. Like I like him looking he's really like sneaky looking in this one with that smile. And then in this one, like you could do something similar because you can really exaggerate like that turn, that corner, like you did on the other one. But yeah, maybe make this one like a little bit more obvious in like that kind of like, what's he doing? Is he saying something? He's like kind of giving someone attitude or something, like give it a little bit more intent is what I would say. In the original one, again, it's more subtle. And I think he could be like a little bit more ticked off looking. And I say that too because he's very sneaky over here. This is actually one of those like almost 10 out of 10. That's great. Great smile and everything. The little eye, like that's a really, really good look. But he's got so much like chunk to him. That's why my vision of his personality is he can be kind of like nasty, which I think is cool. So make him a little bit, kind of like nasty, a little bit mean in this one. And then this is actually a bit of the on model idea from your other one. This is why this feels so small, is it doesn't quite feel on model with your version on the left. And one of the things that you might have to do is also slightly, just barely extend this snout just a little bit. It's pretty long over on the left. So I can picture it being just a little bit longer over here. And you did a really nice, like, this is almost like animation style, like animation shape language, like this lean, small snout, kind of like the big head. And then it got more like crunchy over on this side. So you might also consider like streamline this. So I mean, like not as much like crunchy or chunk. Make it a little bit cleaner over here. Kind of a cleaner shape, especially on this snout. Which would also put your patch. You can see how close this strap is to the eye and the patch on the other side. So keep that up. Like this, the strap would probably be like about here, and the patch is going to be like the socket, right? So it'll be kind of like there. Here's the crown of the head. Here's that ear. Here's that other ear. So here's kind of like his cranium. Let's put this real quick. And 1 second. It's also like really pitched forward, which I like a lot on your left one. Like he kind of has this like, he's like really pitched and his neck is kind of like long and like strong. And so putting his head far back, like I like this pitched forward thing. So I would do that too. I'd kind of put his head a little bit farther forward like that. Especially for the expression. If he's like pissed and he's saying something, he's kind of like leaning into it. Let's see. Yeah, he's got. This is what I'd be conscious of. It's really cool. Like you did it really well over here, so we want to keep that up. He's got like a pretty nice like chill cranium. That's like his cranium. That's like his jaw, right? Here's the connection of his ear. So we gotta be careful over here. It's very similar. It's like he's got a pretty chill cranium. Kind of like I like about that. Here's the jaw. So the ear kind of connects right there. I think I'm doing one more quick thing. I think even you could just, he's kind of like, I think another thing about his model is he's a little bit like sleek looking to me, especially because he's shooting his hips out and stuff. He's kind of like thin and he got very beefy on the right. He got like really like swole. So I would also like, I think you could kind of like shave a lot of this stuff in because I prefer the sleek. I like the sleek and like the big hips. That's kind of like that Joker, Loki, kind of vibe. He's kind of like slender and slinky. Our nice vocabulary word would be like sinewy, right? He's kind of like that thin muscle. So yeah, I would watch the beefcake where he's like super yoked over here. Kind of bring that in a little bit. Yeah, because and also I want to point out you're kind of doing a nice I'd reference almost like a Mike Mignola kind of thing where it's like the big, like this really slender kind of trap, like trapezes going into the shoulders. So like his body kind of has this like this really strong kind of thing like that going into the arm. One thing I like, by the way, wrapping it up, I do like that. I like how far that's like pitched back and it makes that big negative right there. I definitely keep that up over here. Like pitch that collar really far back. It's almost like a cowl, COWL, kind of like a vampire cowl almost, which is cool. Okay, let's see. And we can still play a silhouette even over here, right? So here I am shaving the collar down a little bit so you get the tooth in there. Yeah, this is the stuff about on model course that's tough. You make this really badass face on the left, and then you're like, how do I, yeah, like how do I spin that or like how do I keep that going? And even like me as an audience, I'm like, wow, I love that guy on the left. Like I want to see him on the right also, you know. So I think you can push it further even than what I did. Like I painted it down a lot, but you can have some more, you can definitely mess with it more. But yeah, keep up like this sleek, slender, sinewy like language or like thoughts in your own head. Um, versus he's powerful enough with all the junk on him. His jacket and all that stuff makes his body pointy powerful. So I would keep him pretty like lean on the top, even in the face. I think that's actually a cool thing about him. He's one of those interesting characters where his face is actually pretty slim, but he feels tough, like he could beat you up, you know, which I like. Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, let me give this to you
Or
on.
I
Oh, go
guess
ahead.
I do actually have one. It's kind of concerning colors though. What do you think about me giving him like a pretty saturated orange head and then making everything very kind of muted and toned down with, blacks, um, browns, greens,
Yeah, no, I'm into that because
like
I picture.
military-ish?
Yeah, this is where if I could be biased, I'd lean into like one of my favorites, which is this like green black. It's kind of like oil.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, I'm fine with. I actually like the idea that he'd be kind of like a hot orange, like a really hot orange, like in the middle of all that. Um, I think that'd be really cool. So, and then what I would say is he's pretty hot. Um, he's hot. He has kind of like this oil black, like variations of it. You know, you can obviously do like blues and things like that in there. Um, so like if we're doing one of those like color bar kind of ideas, so he's kind of like oily black, blues and stuff. And then I was trying to think of like sort of like an accent color, like something that's kind
Mhm.
of, you could do that in his eye. Like it's kind of cliche, but like he could have like a blue eye or something. You know, he could kind of have like a really like piercing kind of eye. If not, I would have fun with the buttons, like the gold or silver of the buttons is kind of like, you know, like this is even too much like where I'd double back on this, but I could almost picture something cool where the 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 stuff around him is black. His head is really like sharp orange. And then it'd be really fun if you even turn some of this stuff into like pearl snap, where it's not just like typical gold or typical like silver. It kind of has this. I'll show you real quick. Um, I'm gonna put a picture. Yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh, the computer. Look at it. Yeah, it kind of has this look. Could be kind of cool. It's like pearl or like opal.
Oh.
that could be what I'm pushing you a lot on is that would be pretty unique compared to like most of us, myself included, would just be like, oh, let me give him some gold buttons or gold like accents. But a little bit of that here and there could be kind of interesting, where it's more like a cloudy or like a
Mm.
pearl. Um, it'd be a move that's not used too often, so that's why I would encourage it just for fun. You this would not show up on this detail level really, but even like even put like opal, right? Like kind of that could be
Mhm.
something interesting with like certain large buttons or like large parts on the pouches. And also what I like is the opal and the pearl and all that ties a little bit into that mystery thing. Like he's not just buying like a goth jacket with like gold stuff. He kind of has like a weird jacket even. He has all these like little tools and things. He's weird. He has like, pearl and opal kind of accents. Um I think the scale would translate, but a lot of what I'm thinking about, I'll draw a big arrow is like this right here. This or like this could be kind of interesting as that stuff. It's like a pearl snap idea.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it's very cool. It's definitely sick. It looks great. And that yeah, and you really nailed that head on the left, and that's good. It's not easy to flip it and turn it to the right or like draw it again, but the head on the left is fantastic. Like it's definitely appealing, is what I'd say. It's very appealing.
Yeah, that one was very easy to do, and then the next one, it was hell. I just couldn't do it. I was like, "Oh my god, I need help for this."
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, it's profile. Like the first one's profile, so you got to just really dive into like design, kind of like ratio. Then as soon
Yeah.
as you put it into 3 dimensions, that's where it gets really messy. It gets kind of crazy. I can't
Yeah,
guarantee
for
this
sure.
because I'm a little bit tied up, but I'll try to draw it one more time for you if I can. Between like in the next day or two, I'll try to draw another little like more on head model. Um, I'll see if I can
Mhm.
squeeze it.
Okay, I'll try to find some reference pictures, like, of this expression. I remember seeing one and then it got lost. And it had, like, the perfect facial shape, also very, like, long snout, and I lost it. I was so
Yeah,
mad.
I don't like I don't like Nick because he's like Zootopia Nick because he's a little too round. Um,
Yeah.
but let me find real fast. It never hurts. Like it never hurts to find at least like the structure of this or look at the structure, I should say.
Mhm.
So meaning like you could look at this and even see like his mask, like how this stuff is slotted in, like how that's slotted in, and then even these
Yeah.
ideas, right? Like the way this
Mhm.
like just it drops so far down versus that kind of softer thing we talked about earlier that's a little bit too weak. So
Mhm.
if I were you, I would do what I'm doing, like look around, and then I'd have this one in my pocket for like some mechanical stuff. It's not a bad one to look at. I'll put it in the chat. And then of course, if you haven't already, like we've talked about an animal, maybe if there's something 3D too that you could spin some 3D model a little bit and find like that
Yeah.
nice angle of that nose. Um, but yeah, it's looking cool. I feel like I can even see you taking some of the initiative from that master study, and I like how you're cramming stuff on there. That's a great look. It just is, it's automatically kind of interesting to look at when it has all that junk on there. So I like that.
I was really worried about there being, like, too much junk because they kinda just go ham on it, and before I realized how much stuff I added, I was like, "Oh, no. This feels very cramped," so I was worried about that, especially with the belt kind of all hanging all over. I wasn't sure if it was, like, a good move, so reassuring to hear it was.
I think it's fun. Like, the last thing I'll tell you is um I want you to have fun. Truly, it's like I'm not telling you to go do something you shouldn't do because you're learning, but I also don't want you to be safe. It's like I like you having fun and like really putting stuff in there. Probably the literal only thing I would put into your mind about it all would be the reason this is great, of course, is it is very simple. It's like that's that really direct read is his face in that profile, right? We want a bunch of junk here because he's picking through the junk. And then even this is looking pretty chill. Like my advice would be maybe don't go too crazy with colors here, like color variation.
Okay.
But the
Mm.
the only thing I would tell you, like as true advice, would be with that idea of like visual rest. One of the parts that's a little bit extra to me is like that. Because I like that there's a bunch of junk over here visually, And I actually like that this is some rest right here. And I see like a pocket or a pouch. I would almost argue like you could chill that out. You could, in exchange for that, you could do I always forget like male to female buttoning, but like one side of a male jacket has buttons and for women sometimes it's different. But I could see instead of like putting the pouch here, like just focus on I think it's the let me think real quick. I think it is I think it is the button. It might be the button on this side for well, I'm just being stupid. Let me just look it up real quick. Um so yeah, male code actually has the button on the right hand side of the figure. So here you go. Instead of the pouch, you could focus on the buttons, like whatever
Mhm.
large like button you want to do. And yeah, maybe I would like chill this out, like this belt buckle part. I like the belt truly and it like dangling. Um, maybe even like chill out some of this right here. Just some we want some rest, right? As we'd say. Here it is in blue. So it's like this is readable. We kind of want some rest over here on the shoulder. And then yeah, maybe even some rest down here because I like the boots. They're all elaborate. They have like straps and stuff. So like maybe just chill that out too. Um and
Okay.
fall back on your philosophy of simple versus complex in design, right? Simple side, complex
Mhm.
side. So the right side
Yeah.
is
All right. Yeah.
yeah, the right side's massively complex, so you can go a little more simple on the left. Um,
Mhm.
I'll put some blue here so we remember this as the chill zone. Here we go. Okay, imagine like this is rest. Uh, you put some of this, by the way, last tiny thing is you could put some more spot black if you want to simplify. Like you could almost spot black some of the
Yeah.
information
Okay.
here. And that
Mhm.
graphic quality, like those big blacks might help to like anchor some stuff where if it feels like crazy or chaotic, the big blacks will kind of like tone stuff down and anchor it again. Here I am doing some like on the leg. You could even do like the back of the leg right here. You could do like a big deep
Mhm.
shadow coming off the coat on that side. So yeah, you could do some stuff like that also to kind of graphically help yourself out.
Would it be
Um,
a smart move to go over the objects with the black?
like with like a spot like little black like shadows and things.
Yeah, and also like over the actual objects, for example, where his left leg is. You know how there are objects right back? Would it be a smart move to, for example, go over with the black and kind of cut them off? Or like create, some shape in a way to indicate kind of that they have texture, if
Uh
it makes sense?
yeah, sorry if I'm not understanding. Do you mean like cut off like this, like cut off certain parts of it like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Um yeah, like I would. Yeah, so like for instance, the separation right here, it could be nice, like if you have a little bit of spot
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Yeah, to
Hmm.
kind of we said this
And
word,
then
it's
leave some shape.
yeah, we said this word, it's nice. It's like anchors. It's like you're anchoring stuff with the black. So yeah, I could picture a little bit more like graphic black. And then the good news is all this like crazy stuff here will be low contrast or should be. It's tucked in
Yep.
the jacket. So if it has colors, like little different color handles and stuff, you just wash like a big multiply over all of it. So it's all pushed down. Um, Even like that verb we used the other day, baked. Remember how we talked about baking something in? Kind of like bake
Yeah.
it into the jacket so that it's not a distraction in contrast. It's like very low contrast. Your high contrast, of course, would be the hands, the smoke, and kind of like that. That's it. Yeah, a lot of stuff on the entire figure can be more toned down, like in terms of contrast. It can be
Hmm.
pushed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put this in our Teams chat. Okay, any other questions?
Oh,
Okay, yeah, feel
that's
free to check in
fine.
too if you want to send over Teams while you're bouncing color and stuff on it. We can definitely talk about it as well.
All right, then I will get to work.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you got a
And
lot of the drawing done. Just clean up some of the stuff we talked about drawing wise today, but
yeah,
you got the chunkiest part done. So the coloring, I think, should feel pretty chill. I think it'll be smooth.
yeah, I'll do like a pretty kind of multiply based, just rendering. I don't want to do anything complicated.
Yeah, go for that.
Like
Like you
lasso
did with the
tool and
master setting.
multiply.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking lasso tool and multiply. Just make it
Exactly.
simple. There's
Yeah.
so much
Any
information about it.
any rendering would barely be on the face. Like maybe if you
Yeah.
barely like imply some fur or something, but and the smoke, right? You could make the smoke effect a little bit more like rendered, but other than that, yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. Go for that like two-tone idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. Well, let me know if you have any other questions, and otherwise I will see you on Friday.
All right. See you on Friday. Bye bye.
Cool.
Thank
Take
you.
care. See ya.